Welcome, guitar nerds. This is Ryan Bueter. Ryan Bueter has been a staple of many different music scenes. I've learned about you through the Columbus music scene, but you're also were a staple of the Baltimore music scene. And now you're in California. What we're going to do today, if you have questions for Ryan, post them in the questions underneath this video. I always neglect to say that, but you can absolutely ask Ryan after we go. We want to learn about you and your story, your journey, your musical journey, and everything. So
right.
Thank you for being part of this.
Now, Rob, being that I'm technically challenged, I can't see where the questions are at. So you.
Yeah, I know. I will ask you.
You know what people are asking.
Yeah.
Now, Michael told me that you had some questions about sex. What do you want to know?
Nothing.
Okay. All right.
I don't doubt that he said that.
All right, Michael. Just never be ashamed of who you are.
Yes. Right. Yes. Self-love. Wait a minute. No. So where'd you get your start in music?
I'm really blessed. I grew up in a musical family. My mother had years of piano lessons as a child. My father had singing lessons as a child. They were from Toledo, and that's where I was born. But my father actually sang on Ed Sullivan back in 1958. But within the time of marrying my mother, some life changes happened, so they had to go a different direction. My oldest brother, Rick, played guitar, and he graduated from Ohio State University with his major in music ed, and one of the first people to ever get the jazz studies degree at Ohio State on guitar. And he actually bought me my first pair of drumsticks, and him and my mom got me signed up with Steve Dodge for drum lessons starting in 1977 at the old, I think it was Van's Music Store downtown.
Okay. Van's Music Store.
And Steve's a phenomenal musician, and really everything Steve Dodge taught me about drumming from the basics on, I have used those tools that he gave me were the best tools for music.
And everything, not just drumming.
Yeah,
you're the first really kind of multi-instrumentalist that you've gone through different phases of stuff. Like, because I know you play guitar. How long was your drumming?
So, where they say once a drummer, always a drummer.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be a drummer because, when I was young, I had seen like an old clip of the Beatles, and I saw Ringo Starr, and I was like, that looks cool. That looks like a good job. That's what I want to do. But as I got into high school, there were really good drummers in my high school. And so I started, my brother had guitars, and I was, started when my brother was out of the house, I would start, getting his guitars out and playing his guitars. And then my parents got me my own guitar because I wanted to write music. Like I had started writing like poetry actively, like in the 5th grade. And I was that kid. And you can only write so many songs on the drums. So I wanted to write music. So I learned to play guitar. We always had a piano in the house. And I, started, playing guitar and playing piano, but moving into high school, nobody plays bass. Nobody plays bass. So out of default, I ended up playing bass and becoming the singer of my band in high school. My band in high school was called The Mist.
All right.
And, when I was, I think 15 years old is when we played our first show at Apollo's on the Ohio State University campus. And that is the connection too with Mr. Michael Giese.
Okay. Explain yourself.
We would go into Coil Music Store, and Mike was always just like the nicest guy. Like Mike knew everybody. Knows, or I should say knows, he's still with us. You are still with us, Mike, right?
Yeah, he's texting me right now.
Mike was always, when I was a kid, he was always this cool dude at the music store, but he was encouragement. Like he was a ball of encouragement.
Yeah.
And he, he'd always talk about these bars that, being a kid, I'd never heard these bars. I didn't know what they were. He talked about the Alrosa Villa and somebody getting their guitar stuck in the ceiling or something like that. And He was just really encouraging. And I was like, where do we play? And he goes, Apollo's. And I'm like, Apollo's on campus, and of course, when you're growing up in Ohio, and you haven't been down in that area yet. And I grew up in Dublin, so we were a little sheltered in the 70s and 80s. You think Apollo's, you think like the Apollo. And of course you go to Apollo's and it's kind of, it was a dive bar that sold arrows and beer. And it was, it was dirty, even by
it was a college bar.
Yeah, 1970s and 80s standards. But it's where so many of us in Columbus started and continued to play. And Mike, Mike was just like, he'd pretty much go out and see every band's first show. He'd go out and see him play.
Yeah.
But he was always real encouraging. But that's where Mike comes into the story, is me getting a little bit older and going to the
I always see Mike is like a connector and an influencer.
Yeah,
like he inspires people.
Yeah, when he contacted me about this, I was like, there's actually no better person. It would be him and Merv, no better people that I could think of to really kind of run to start digging into this Columbus music history, because he knows everybody and he saw everybody, and he's just, I know Mike's watching, so I love you, buddy. You gave a lot of encouragement to me when I was a young lad.
Praise.
So that was that. But I ended up playing bass. I ended up being the singer of my band, The Mist. We did a 45 when I was in high school, when I was like 16 years old. And it was a real big deal that we got to hear that played on the QFM 96 radio show, and every other week or so they'd spin that single. But we were also kind of isolated from other bands,
because you're from Dublin. Because you were from Dublin, or because you're so young?
I think so. Like, we would play and our Dublin friends would come see us, and we knew some of the other bands, but we early on did not mix with a lot of bands. Like, I didn't know a ton of musicians in Columbus when I was in high school. It was, Mike and, Eric Moore and Mark Chatfield, So
those are pretty good people to know.
Yeah. Mark's probably got good stories of me being a little nerd in high school, but eventually I was in a band with him later. So but Mark was.
Who did you play with him then?
Boys from Nowhere.
Okay.
I was in.
How many bands has Mark Chatfield been in?
I don't know. You would have to ask Mark that.
I would love to.
Mark really helped me learn some things about rock and roll that I didn't know. Because after high school, I went out to Los Angeles and went to the Musicians Institute to go to the Bass Institute of Technology.
BIT, yeah.
Yeah, BIT back in 1987. And, I went out there and I came back to Columbus. I didn't have anything going on in Los Angeles. So I came back to Columbus and got a job at the Music Center. But I was playing my jazz bass up here,
playing your Jeff Berlin licks and
yeah. Well, he was one of my teachers out there, but even Jeff, I think, wore it a little bit lower than me. But doing this, goofy jazz thing.
Yeah.
And I got seen by Dave Egan, who was a record producer for Sasapa Records. And I got seen in Chelsea's at one of the open jams. And he sat me down with Keith Pintar and I think Jeff Robert and talked about us cutting an album or calling me in for an audition. I can't remember how it went down. I mean, I was 20 years old, 19 years old, 19, I think. And I went into the studio to audition for Carla and I didn't get it. And, but I went in there playing it like this, and I went back to the music store and Mark said something like, you didn't get it because you're playing bass like, I don't think I remember exactly what the word was.
Pansy. Pansy.
Yeah, that's probably
like a bass cool kid.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact conversation, but he said, you need to drop your bass down and play rock and roll, play with a pick. And he pulled a precision bass off the wall at the music center, and he said, I think I either wanted it or something, but he took it in the back and took it apart and put some EMG pickups in there and gave me a pick. Because Lord knows, you go to school for bass, Lord have mercy if you use a pick back then.
Yeah.
And he gave me a pick, and he said, and he called them and said, give him another shot. And so I went back in for another audition with the bass strung down low, and I wasn't playing all these, stupid bass fills. I was just going dum 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 dum, doing that sort of bass playing. And I ended up getting that gig. So Mark was really instrumental in a lot of stuff for me.
He's another connector, like influencer, like supportive kind of. Like my thing about music scenes is he's one of those guys that is, everybody has something good to say about him.
Yeah. He was very influential to me. He was very supportive, and he was always very honest. And it helped. Mm-hmm. And so I did that Carla gig. And I did the CD shit. I should have gotten this stuff out. Let me see if I have a box somewhere of a bunch of these CDs and crap. So let me get it. I'm in my house. I bought my house 2 years ago. I still haven't hung anything on the wall. We got the pool and hot tub built, but I ain't in the wall. Anyway, so I did that Carla album, and see if I can find a copy. Everybody remember this one right here? Yay, the Carla Goldman album. Okay. And Carla was wonderful. There, and let me see. There's a picture of
Dreamy
Studley B. Ryan Michaels in there, and I did that album, but things didn't quite work out right. Mark was even on that album and in that band for a hot minute. So it didn't work out, but then somehow Mick Divins got a hold of me.
Okay, who's Mick Divins?
Nowhere?
Huh?
Mick Divins from Boys from Nowhere.
Okay.
And Mark was playing in the band with Mick, and Boys from Nowhere was just, Mick Divins is a guy that if Mick Divins, he's actually from Pennsylvania. Do you know Mick?
I know, but Brad Divins.
Oh yeah, from Wrathchild America.
Yeah.
I know Brad too. That's funny. You know that guy. I don't know if he'd remember me right now, but I was actually living in Hollywood when Wrathchild America came out to do like in 1980.
Yeah.
788 there to do like their Hollywood hang for a couple months.
Yeah.
And went and saw them at the Waters Club, went and saw them at the Troubadour. But yeah.
I remember them when they were Wrathchild.
Yeah. Well, that's they
old, like right out of Cool Kids.
Yeah.
He left Kicks. I don't know what the timeline is, but he left Kicks and went back to
started Wrathchild. Got the deal, and they became Wrathchild America. That album, Climbing the Walls, holy hell, is that a good album?
Yeah.
But are we
different Divins?
We can talk about Wrathchild.
Yeah.
Brad, if you're listening, people remember you.
Facebook friend. I don't know if you guys know who I am, but I know who he is.
Remember me, but I could throw some names around to him that he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I remember those guys."
Yeah.
But he wouldn't remember me. But
Swizzles. I saw him at Swizzles.
Went shirt shopping with him on Melrose one day.
Okay.
Okay. So back to it. Mick Divins was from Pennsylvania too, I believe, from Pittsburgh, but he is still in Central Ohio. Mick had a band called Boys from Nowhere, which, like, I don't know, he had like 20 independent releases for this punk band of his, Boys from Nowhere, all around the world. Like, he was the guy, like in the movie Singles, they're like, oh, the guy goes, but we're huge in Belgium.
Matt Dillon.
He had singles going on in Europe and Australia and doing all that stuff. And Mick is one of I don't think there is a nicer lead singer guy out there than Mick Divins. you know, Mick Diven's just a super guy. But so anyways, Mark and I were in that band called Boys from Nowhere. It was Mick's band, but we were in it, you know, for a little while. And I actually have a video. That people are probably dying to see. I had it mastered down to CD and then on file of Boys from Nowhere opening up for the Smithereens at the Newport in like 1991 or something like that, like the night before Christmas, like December 24th or something like that, December 23rd maybe.
Yeah.
So I did that, and that was, you know, I learned a lot in that situation too, just a little bit more. You know, I was really lucky that I had some older musicians around me who were just, you know, that I could learn the rock and roll thing from, like that could wean me into the rock and roll world.
Okay, let's go back to The Mist. What kind of music was that?
The Mist was a mixture of, if you took U2, Rush, The Police, and REM,
Okay.
and mixed it all together, that we had a bunch of original music that sounded like, you know, Andy Summers meets Alex Lifeson on guitar, and with, you know, like,
who was your hero bass hero?
I was a massive Rush fan.
Okay.
Massive.
Everyone
Rush.
was. We're the same age, so I was the guitar player in the band that everyone covered Rush with Bastille Day and Fly By Night and Villa Stringado.
Yeah, that band.
So when you went out to LA, were you thinking of yourself, you're vibing a rock bass career, or did you think
I wanted to be a rock star? I don't know how much you know at 18 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't know as much as I thought I knew. But I look back at that. Yeah, a rocker. I went out to Hollywood though with a REM and Rush. Well, that's a weird thing that you like. I put like REM and Rush at the top.
And for everybody who's listening, REM back then was completely independent. They were like,
IRS Records REM.
Yeah, this was not, because I was my college roommate liked all those weird bands that like a couple years later became complete darlings.
Yeah, like my band The Mist was like very, if Rush was even a little more alternative. And I went out to Hollywood with that mindset. I was never really like the spandexy thing. I was never into the
hair metal.
Huh?
You were never hair metal.
Hair.
Say that again.
And stuff, but I wasn't like so much the Poison.
From Harrisburg, PA.
Huh?
They're from Harrisburg, PA.
Yeah. And when I got out to Hollywood, that glam thing was kind of dead by then. Even though when I was in Hollywood, like that's when Warrant got signed. So even when I went back to Columbus in '88, like Warrant, you know, still became huge, you know, in 1991. But when I was out there too is when Guns N' Roses hit, and I was out there in '87 and '88, and I was telling everybody about this band Guns N' Roses, and you know, I think Mike Ellery might have been the only guy in Columbus who had actually really heard of them while I was out there and come back. And then I came back, you know, they're huge. And bands like Jane's Addiction too, I saw all in their early days in Los Angeles.
These are all like second year college.
When I was at the Musicians Institute, I was out in Los Angeles '87 and '88. So I came back from Hollywood though to Columbus with kind of more of a Guns N' Roses fanboy.
Okay.
Than when I left with the REM and Rush fanboy thing, but it didn't stop me from going to see Rush.
Yeah.
100 times.
Okay. So
I never did the spandex thing. And so post Boys from Nowhere, I started my band, The Final Prayer. And I kind of started that with Andy Harrison, who is, I think he's Sheryl Crow's guitar tech.
Okay.
And then he also played guitar in a band called Howlin' Maggie, and he was in Oswald and the Herringbones, and Andy played with everybody too. Andy knows everybody.
Yeah.
And a drummer named Jeremy Rogers, who's just a phenomenal musician as well. It kind of went a little bit different direction. And then Aaron Pauley came aboard in the Final Prayer. And we did a CD as well. This is the last shrink wrapped copy of the Final Prayers album, Doorway to America. So let me see, there's a glow on it.
Yeah, I see. Yep.
And that's us on the back. That's me in the middle, Aaron over here, and then Jeremy. And this band was awesome. It was kind of my thing. There's a lot of my ego wrapped up in that. And I didn't really give as much space to the other guys as I probably should have then. That was a pretty ego-driven thing there. But there are some experiences that I had that I was trying to elevate us, but I probably should have given more space to those guys. And after that, we went through several different lineups, and Aaron and Jeremy both went off to do their own projects too. And I tagged them both in this, but they're both, they are both staple musicians of Columbus, and they're phenomenally talented people.
Yeah.
And I love them both very much. We got in the studio and we created a CD that really kicks ass.
That's good.
Dave Civey used to bartend at Slapsy Maxie's, and he used to, every day go on, the first song he'd pop on would be a song called Want It Bad on here. At least he told me that, but we'd go in there and he'd always pop it on. And that band did a lot of cool stuff. We opened up for Black Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult, and who else? God,
Jesus. Opened up for Black Sabbath?
It was crazy. It was right after we did this. Jared taking a sabbatical. No, it was before. I can't remember the timing on it. It was Jared and I had a disagreement or something. He left for a minute, and then we brought him in on doing this, and then whatever. He was in the band when we opened up for Black Sabbath. It was Scott Steinecker, who ran the Newport Music Hall. Okay. Was always very generous to us and to me when it came for opening slots. And we had just put this out, and Danzig was supposed to open up for Black Sabbath at the Newport Music Hall.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And Scott called me like 2 days before, 3 days before, if I can remember the time. And said, do you guys want to open up for Black Sabbath? And then, yeah. And so we did. And that was really cool. Who
was in the band at that point?
Huh?
Tony Iommi? Who was in the band? So we're talking like
Tommy, Geezer, Vinny, and Ronnie.
Ronnie?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Ronnie was singing.
Oh, wow.
And I remember the night before, Lynch Mob played.
Okay.
And it was funny because I knew Bob Mason, the singer, because my girlfriend from New Jersey was good friends with him, and weird shit happened that night. But anyways, Ronnie's out there hanging on the sides watching Lynch Mob. They're playing there the next night, and I go up to Ronnie and I say, "Hey, I'm Ryan. We're the Final Prayer. We're opening up for you guys tomorrow." He goes, "Oh, wow, great, thanks." He goes, "If you need anything at all, just tell our tour manager."
Okay.
And their crew the Black Sabbath crew was really, really neat to us and really nice.
That's
to
cool.
Us. And crazy.
That was the best. That was my favorite lineup.
Yeah. What was that? That was 92, I think. And then in 2016 or 17, I went to a party out in Anza, California, which is the wild, wild west of Southern California. Mm-hmm. It's a part between it's a part between like Temecula and Palm Springs, this elevated area. It's just, there's a lot of meth and weed growing out there. But I went to this birthday party for a guy named Johnny Roberts, who was a radio advertising exec in Columbus for years. And Vinny was at this party.
Okay.
And I talked to him, and I was like, I opened up for you. I give him that thing. I opened up for you back in 1992 at the Elrose, or at the Newport Music Hall in Columbus, Ohio. He's like, really? Who was singing at that time? I go, Ronnie. He goes, oh, okay. I'm like, and been friends again. So, yeah, so that was a weird time. But Final Prayer went through a lot of changes. I was operating on pure ego through many of those years, and there's a lot of self-destructive behavior that didn't help.
Yeah, well, part of your childhood, part of your growth process.
Part of the,
Yeah.
That's the nicest way to say it, Ron. Nobody's ever said it so nice.
Well, it is. It's like, yeah. All right. So now, Final Prayer, when that finally ended.
What happened is the idea, eventually Jared left, and a girl named Carolyn O'Leary started playing drums.
Okay.
Who had been in Scrawl for a number of years, which was a pretty famous band from Columbus. And Carolyn's a sweetheart, and she's just a rock solid drummer. And then a guy named Tommy Wilson came aboard to play bass. There was, there were other band members too. John.
He played bass.
Huh?
He played bass.
I switched over to guitar. There's John. There was Matt Vince. There's Keith Pickens. I mean, geez, John Durzo was in the band for a minute. Grant Gilkey was in the band for a minute. Just a lot of different versions of it.
Yeah. The only unifying theme is you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had penned, the majority of the songs anyways.
Yeah. Yep.
It was, I was a very ego-driven person at that time, and drinking a lot. Just a lot of very fearful, selfish behaviors during those times. And that was my 20s. And then I got some studio equipment. I started doing some car jingles in Columbus.
Okay.
I hate to see Pontiac in Columbus. And hey to see Pontiac GMC. And I started doing a couple of commercials and producing some of that stuff, and then just started recording some of my own songs. I didn't really have any plans to ever really do a band again. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. And I recorded a song called Into the Sun. And then the Blitz 99.7 had one of those, submit your songs to be on the Blitz CD. And I did. And my song Into the Sun got picked for the Blitz CD. And that was neat. And I was like, oh, great. Maybe I should put a band together again. And then my brother funded another album for me. And that became the B. Ryan Michael Solo Project, which John Widener came aboard and played guitar. Now, if you don't know John Widener is another one of those guitar players. It's like when you watch him play, you're just like, oh, wow. You're just, he's incredible. He's just so tasty in everything he does. And Kevin Oliver was in the band. I'm thinking about guitar players that were in the Final Prayer. Kevin Oliver was in the band for a show. Grant Gilkey was for a minute. God, those guys are guitar players too that are just
ridiculous.
Ridiculous is the thing. I mean, how do you describe them? They're all pretty darn talented. And then I was in Desperately Seeking Fusion for like 6 months because the bass player had to take a 6-month vacation. And it was Carl Sheeler. So Carl took a break for a little while. And I was in Desperately Seeking Fusion for like 6 months. And that was great. And, I love Ken.
Carl played bass for
played bass in Desperately Seeking
Never knew.
Fusion for a while. I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. God, there's a whole lineup through that band also. I don't know. Once again, do you remember the thing where I said I was drinking a lot back then?
Yeah.
So, but Kenny lived out in California, not far from me for a while. Actually, I moved to where he lived.
So Kevin Oliver also played for George Clinton in Parliament.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Those guys are all just incredible players. But then I did the B. Ryan Michaels solo project, and it had a horrible picture on the cover, if I can find it. There we go. Ugh. And the picture on the inside is even more embarrassing. Right there. Yeah, that's terrible. But we had a guy named Carl Maduri, who had been one of Wild Cherry's managers back in the 70s, kind of jumped on to help out with this. And we actually got it on like 67 or 68 radio stations across the country, the single. It was a song called Wild and Young.
All right.
But it takes so much money to make a hit happen, And it was great when it was getting airplay and all that. And we did some shows, but it just, I wasn't perfectly present at that time. That was 2000 though. So we got to step back. In 1997 is when I started playing dueling piano shows at Howl at the Moon in Columbus, Ohio.
Howl at the Moon in Columbus.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what's the place in Baltimore?
That was a Howl at the Moon also. I started at the Columbus one in 1997. I was still doing this sort of stuff, and we made this in 2000.
Yeah. So how did you how did you shift over?
I opened a bar in Baltimore, Maryland, and they needed players. And so they asked me to go there. And then by default, because the first music director they hired there kind of, he's passed on now, but he kind of had some issues. And I was made the music director there and ended up hiring a staff of piano players there. And
now, were you piano? Were you on the piano too? So how did you just completely shift?
To what? To playing another instrument?
Well, yeah, you went from bass. You went from bass at the beginning of.
First of all, I had drum lessons. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so, go ahead.
Once again, let's go back to Steve Dodge. Steve Dodge is an incredible musician, but along with playing drums, him teaching me drums, we had the piano growing up in the house, but Steve was also teaching me the notes on the xylophone, So, because that's a percussion instrument.
Yes. So is the piano.
Huh?
So is the piano.
Yeah, it's the same idea with sticks, mallets. But we had the piano in the house growing up, so you just start banging around on it. And my mother, when I was a little kid, she'd say, "Don't bang on the piano." And it's like, "Hey, Mom, what am I doing today?" So I bang. So I went into Howl at the Moon in Columbus, and I was hanging out with friends, and my friends wanted me to get on stage and do a song. And so they gave the guys $20 for me to get up and do a song, because piano bars aren't open jams and they're not karaoke. We know what we're doing. It's great if you sing and play, but it's not a sit-in type situation. If you want to get up, put some money in the tip jar, like real money. So I got up and did Hey Jude.
Okay. Key of C major.
Huh?
Key of C major.
I think I did it in the key of D.
Okay.
It's actually an F, but I usually do it in D or E, depending on how I'm feeling that day. And I did it in D, I think, but after I played it, because I got everybody singing along with it on the na-na-na-na-nas at the end, and Rich McCluskey, the manager, when I got off stage, grabbed me. He said, "Hey, don't go anywhere. You're going to work here." And I was like, "I don't really play piano." And he was like, "That's okay." He's like, "That's okay." So Jed Demlow, who's a phenomenal musician, was the entertainment director there. And I went in the following week for a formal audition. And, I could already transpose and hear that. The thing is I see music in colors. So they call it synthesis. I just learned that some years back, I think is what it's called. So when I hear music, I'm seeing like shapes and colors, and I'm not thinking notes or anything like that. So if somebody's playing in the key of G, the whole tonality resonates red to me.
Okay.
So, yeah. If somebody's playing the key of D, that's blue. E is black. F is purple. G is red. A is orange. B is
That
yellow.
is like a high level. That's almost like perfect pitch.
I have relative pitch, but
yeah. But I studied at Berkeley, and my teachers were studying off of guys who talked in the terms that you're talking about. Like Charlie Banakis was a guy, he was an educator that would ear training, and they were hearing in colors.
Yeah.
And that's how he trained it. And it's like, that's kind of, relative pitch, but how is it not perfect pitch?
Because I'm not perfect every time somebody asks.
Okay. Okay.
But what I do have is near perfect tempo.
Okay. Yes,
So,
because probably, drumming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my partner asked me a song. He's like, "What tempo is this?" I'll be like, "That's 87." And I'm like, 85, but you're close.
Yeah.
Near perfect. No. But I'm like obsessed with pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Once I realized that I wasn't in the pocket, then I became obsessed with pocket.
Yes. Yeah. Well, every instrument you're talking about, like all bass, it's completely a pocket instrument.
Yeah, but you can do the movements and you can do it, and it's like, that's it. But until you actually understand pocket and how to lay it in there, that's the different thing. Like I can, somebody can play a drum beat because they know the movement, they know how it's supposed to be, and it's kind of good. It's kind of good. But, you might recognize yourself too. You hear that drum that's kind of good, and then you hear that drum and you're like, oh shit, this guy's the real thing.
Yeah.
When you hear one of those drums, you're like, oh yeah.
That's how far I have to go.
He's not doing anything busy.
Yeah.
But feels like drugs.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Bill Rudd.
Yeah.
Bill Rudd.
Yeah.
Gets it right. So, the thing about pocket is energy of music to me doesn't come from a fast tempo. It comes from the pocket. Let's get it on. That song. Let's get it on. That song's got energy in it.
Yeah.
And it's not a fast song, is it?
Yeah. No.
So once I realized that how out of the pocket I was on so many things, and honestly, I didn't get the pocket shit till I was probably, into my 30s.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't coherent. We get loaded on a gig and we go up and play, and we're just like, we're not really trying.
And still it was entertaining. So
people start phoning it in.
Yeah.
Oh, I know how the song goes. Like, do you really? Nah, but half measures avail us nothing.
Yeah. Yep. So you're in.
Nobody's watching and nobody has any questions, do they?
Huh?
Nobody's watching and nobody has any questions, do they?
I don't know. I gotta check. All right. Let's see. One comment. Oh, that's me. Oh, well.
It's Monday night.
So you're in Baltimore. Okay, so how long?
So I was in Baltimore.
You crafted a new career out of what you did.
Yeah. It was work because basically I needed a job in 1997 anyways, because, we weren't selling a lot of these. So I needed a job, and within a year's time in Columbus, I was playing 5 nights a week, dueling piano shows. And then moved to Baltimore, and I'm working 5 nights a week, and they gave me a raise, and I'm in charge of the club. And I was, my drinking was really out of control. And I was also getting really resentful at a lot of people that I was working with. And I was letting people walk on me. And that was leaving me with a lot of remorse as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend, flash forward from 2001 to 2005, 220 nights a year in a piano bar.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I was there when 9/11 happened, and I was singing dedications for dozens of people killed in the towers.
Mm-hmm.
I was singing send-off parties for troops because they're all coming up from the area. There's a bunch of military bases around
Mm-hmm.
there, but everybody was coming up from Fort Bragg and Fort Benning and over from Fort Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
And BWI was the jump-off point for most people going over to the Middle East.
Yeah.
They were getting a night or two off in Baltimore, and they were coming through our piano bar. And they, I should have gotten them out, but I have a bucket of challenge coins. Now, challenge coins are what the military carries around. Do you know what a challenge coin is? People in the military and veterans carry challenge coins, either notating their unit or branch or something like that. And it's just, the old story is you meet a veteran or somebody in the military in a bar, you pull out your challenge coins. If he doesn't have his or she doesn't have hers, they're buying the beers. And, different representations and, things of pride.
Mm-hmm.
And like they would come through my bar and they slam a challenge coin down on the piano and say, I want to hear Sweet Caroline. I remember on that Saturday after 9/11, a girl coming up and sitting next to me crying. And she was in the bar and she goes, my dad and my boyfriend were in the towers and we haven't heard from them. And all I want to hear is American Pie. And she's sitting there crying on my shoulder while I'm playing this song, and I'm choking on tears too. And there was a lot of nights like that in Baltimore during that time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were living in York at the time, but if you ever came into the Inner Harbor, like we had snipers on the top of our building looking over the whole complex, a bar complex.
Yeah.
They were up there for about 3 years.
Okay. So Howl at the Moon is where in conjunction?
Do you know where the block is in Baltimore? Oh, if you know where ESPN Zone was, or
Yeah, well, like
it was kind of down across from that. There was Bar Baltimore too, and I'm trying to think of the other bars around there, but it was in the Inner Harbor area there, kind of not too far from ESPN Zone.
Mm-hmm.
ESPN Zone, does that place even exist? Those kind of places?
I think it does. That, and it's attached to Barnes and Noble and
Is Barnes and Noble even a thing anymore?
Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah.
It's a mega store in Baltimore.
Yeah. So Howl at the Moon isn't there anymore.
It's like the power plant.
Closed 2 years ago. It was open for 20 years. I ran it the first 5 years with the GM from Columbus who moved to Baltimore too, Rich McCluskey, and he's a hell of a good guy. He's a hell of a good guy. But I ended up getting fired from that gig.
Okay.
Being the music director there. I actually stepped down from being the music director, and a month later they fired me.
Okay.
And that might have been God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. But my drinking was out of control. I was 36. My friend Jen, who was one of my closest friends, or one of the only people still talking to me, and I only knew Jen for about 18 months. But she had leukemia, and we got to be very close friends in a short time.
Yeah.
And she told me one day, she goes, I love you, and you're going to die just like me, Ryan, unless you get help. And, so I got down on my hands and knees and I said a prayer to the Almighty. I said, I'm done. Help me.
Mm-hmm.
Done. And, got sober and have been ever since, July 17th, 2005. And
And that was, you said in your 100th day, Jen.
yeah, it was I believe the 27th of October that year that she passed.
Mhm.
And
She's the one that inspired you
yeah.
to
Well, she helped me. She didn't call me an asshole. She didn't call me a drunk. She said, "You're sick and you're gonna die just like me unless you get help." And you don't tell a 70-pound girl that she doesn't know what she's talking about, when she's got a terminal disease like that. And I realized that all she wanted to do was get another day, and all I was doing was killing myself and taking
playing
life.
in reverse.
I was taking life for granted. And then all the people that I knew that were going over and fighting in the Middle East, and here I was, in my self-indulgent, selfish misery. And I was like, and the one time my ego did me a favor, and my ego was like, "You're better than this, Ryan. You're better than this." And so got sober, wound up in a sober living in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Got some help from a program called Music Cares.
Okay.
And I did just what everybody told me to do, and haven't taken a drink since.
Music Cares sued me.
Huh?
Music Cares sued me because I had a.
Would you?
They sued me because I had a thing called Music Share.
Oh.
And they said it's too close to our name. We want you to back out of that name. Mine was a community music education farm.
Oh.
Trying to get but I'd see that I'm it's great seeing they're doing great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, there was some wonderful girls I know from Texas, Laura and Aaron, who I got to know, and just kind of shared some life understandings with them. Some girls ended up writing a book called Music Speaks, with profits from it.
Mm-hmm.
Hands on the cover, and there's a
I
dedication.
will absolutely purchase that.
Yeah, there's a page called Music Speaks. This book came out in a 2020. Well, like right there is the dedication for Ryan in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron McGowan and Laura Clark, wonderful girls. 2012.
Yeah, send me a link to that, and I'll put it in.
There's a Music Speaks page that is all about this book of Music Speaks.
Okay, yeah, link us up. So we're gonna have a YouTube version of this page, and I'll put a link to the book.
It's they got 9 authors together to write 11 short stories about music.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really cool book. It's it's great short stories in here, but these girls, Laura and Aaron, are just super wonderful girls. And they're just girls that I got to know and kind of shared some of what I learned in the clarity that I was starting to get in life by 2010, 2011, 2012. And apparently they were happy to hear it because they did this book and dedicated it to me. And,
question for you, Jen, she, in a moment of, I guess, was this, you tell me how this transpired, but she inspired sobriety. She didn't give up on you as a friend, but also your next level thing was you're gonna start this the dueling the killer
foundation.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit here.
Killer.
I was working in piano bar. When I got sober, Howl at the Moon actually gave me a job back in Hollywood at their location there, and I did that for 6 months. I got fired from there too. And
how do you get fired?
Twice.
How do you?
Badge of honor. After more was revealed, it probably should have been 2 other people that should have gotten fired and not me.
Yeah.
So you get fired sometimes when you tell the truth that nobody wants to hear.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that.
And then when two other people over here have something to hide,
Okay.
it's easier to blame this guy over here for starting drama, even though these two people over here would eventually be fired.
Yes. Okay.
But I do, they call us now for all their, I don't really have any resentment with them now or anything. They call the Killer Dueling Pianos to do all their West Coast corporate.
So how did that get started?
The Killer Dueling Pianos. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm in California. I work at Halt the Moon again. And then I start traveling the country, doing fly dates for piano bars all over the country. I opened a piano bar up for a DoubleTree in Claremont, California, and run that for 2 years. But that I ended up leaving there. And then I went to a piano bar in Fullerton, California, and ran that for a couple of years. During this time, though, it was about 2010-ish that I came up with the name of the Killer Dueling Pianos, as I needed to start thinking bigger than what I was doing.
Yeah. So every place you start, you start doing stuff in other people's establishment, it becomes their thing. And now this thing is more your trust.
I sold a Harley Davidson for about 10 grand, and I bought a set of traveling shells. I went to NAMM and ran into Mike Martin, who used to work at Contemporary Keyboards in Columbus, and he's now VP of marketing for a Casio, and I got a Casio sponsorship.
All right.
I was starting my own dueling piano company, and Casio love them. They've been super supportive. They even got us on the cover of Yahoo Finance a few years ago. Anyways, moving forward, the Killer Dueling Pianos, I didn't immediately have 230 gigs a year with the Killer Dueling Pianos because it was an up and coming company. So I was still dependent on other people for a while, still kind of running this bar in Fullerton. And then I'm just like, shit, I got to create some work here. And one day I sat down and I started doing some homework on trying to get some gigs, and I don't want to give all my secrets away in the public here. By 2015, the Killer Dueling Pianos were starting to roll well. 2016, at first I just wanted gigs for myself.
Yeah.
Then it became that thing of where I'm busy with a gig this weekend, so I got to call two other people to go out and do a gig.
You provide the prototype, and you.
And then I started buying more sets of pianos. And
so you have the shells. You
put shells.
Yeah.
They're shells.
And you just put the Casio in there. Okay.
Yeah. And so I have, I think, 5 or 6 sets of pianos in California now. I have a rig in Denver. I have a partner in Dallas. And I've got, access to gear within, 350 miles of every major city. And so by 2018, we were rolling deep. In 2019, the Killer Dueling Pianos, my main partner, Donnie, and I did 236 shows across the country in 2019. And that was huge. And the company did over 500 shows as a company. And that was incredible. And it was literally, we had 5 shows going every Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Casinos, weddings, fundraisers, parties. And it was ridiculous. And if I wouldn't have gotten sober, none of it would happen.
Yeah.
So leading up to this, 2020 happens, and it's a shit show for everybody. 2020 happens, we refunded over $100,000 to people of canceled events, and Donnie and I did almost 50 shows before March 13th of 2020. Yeah. And then March 13th.
Okay, here's another question. Are you always playing with Donnie?
Am I always playing with Donnie?
Yeah, are the two of you, in other words, how does that dynamic work? Do you have that kind of dynamic with somebody else, or is it?
Well, Donnie does everything I tell him to do. 99% of the time, Donnie and I are playing together. And here's why. There's so many other little in-between dates. First of all, Donnie and I just work great together. We are polar opposites of people.
Yeah.
You know, we're polar opposites of people.
Mhm.
You know, I don't drink anymore. He can't finish a beer. I'm covered in tattoos and I wear boots and ride a Harley. He's a red tennis shoe Prius driver. So, you know, he's a vegetarian, you know, I'll eat it while it's still, you know, in the fur. So, you know, but his talent as a musician is, oh my God, you know, he's incredible. So also traveling and being on the road isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
Now, Donnie and I have been out, you know, for 14 days at a time together. Same two people traveling in a truck side by side. A lot of times we end up sharing hotel rooms just because financially that's how it works.
Mhm.
So, you know, some days we're at the Ritz and some days we're at the General Sherman in the middle of nowhere, Arizona, sleeping on plastic sheets,
Mhm.
you know. So it's not for everybody. Donnie and I work really well together. And we have the same goals in mind. So
Yeah.
he also knows, like, he's doing a lot of the driving because I'm usually on the computer typing a contract. You know, we're getting, you know, in a normal season, I'm getting 5 to 10 inquiries a day for shows. And I got to respond to them all and I got to call them all back. Well, you can't do that if you're in the truck 6 hours a day. You
Mhm.
know, you can't drive and, you know, do that stuff. So most of the time I'm with Donnie, but there are other occasions, like I'm going to Texas in June. All right. So June 4th, we're going to be in Midland, Texas at the Ox Dance Bar and Grill in June 4th. And then June 5th, we're going to be in Palestine, Texas at a place called Ham Bones. And I'm going to be working with a gentleman named Tim Georgieff, who I've known for a couple of years now, who is a super hard worker. He's got the gear down there and, you know, we just vibe really well and get along great.
Yeah.
So he's got his own thing, but he's an extended player in the Killer Dueling Pianos as well.
Mhm.
Over Easter, I was in Oklahoma and Kansas, and I was working with a guy named Tom Basler, who's been in the dueling game for years.
Mhm.
Tom comes out and meet me. My partner, Jamie, in Denver. Many times when I travel to, you know, like the Killer Dueling Pianos perform every year at Sturgis, at the Knuckle Bar in Sturgis for a week. So
For
Jamie,
how long?
huh?
How long do you do that?
For the basically the week, the 10 days of Sturgis.
Okay, got it.
And that's at the Knuckle. And you know, Jamie brought that account in. You know, when they saw the logo, they were like, "Oh, hell yeah, this totally works with Sturgis." So,
Mhm.
but really, the majority of the shows are with Donnie. But we've got a small staff of players who are all just incredible.
So you've ironed out the prototype of this is how we.
This is how we do my company.
Yes.
What somebody else does with their company is
Yeah.
their thing. But when you're working with the Killer Dueling Pianos, this is how we do things.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
And there's no drinking on the gigs or anything.
That's very cool.
I mean, I'm the only, well, we have a couple other players that don't drink, but I'm, you know, but in general, you know, it's a professional thing. You have to wait. I'm up at 7:30 every morning.
Yeah.
If I go to bed at, you know, 2 a.m, I'm still up at 7:30 because people on the East Coast planning events in California are calling at 9:30 their time and 10 o'clock their time.
Yeah.
So I'm up taking phone calls, responding to emails. It's running a business is what it is, you know, and I never thought, you know, that I would be running a business the way I'm running a business, but I run a business. And
that's wonderful. That's completely wonderful. That's great.
Yeah, I think I'm the only piano player in the company that doesn't have a college degree. So
Did you finish your Musicians Institute?
Musicians Institute was only a year when I went there.
Yeah.
So yes, I did finish.
Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna take a side road to your cancer.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So recently, I was part of something called the Leukemia Lymphoma Society Man and Woman of the Year campaign. And let's just shorten it to LLS, Leukemia Lymphoma Society. And first of all, let me come back a little further. The Killer Dueling Pianos have done constant philanthropic work.
Mhm.
We've worked for a number of cancer organizations. We've worked for Wounded Warrior Project. Wounded Warrior Project even actually presented me with a challenge coin after a show. Like, and I was totally humbled because everybody else that's holding one in the crown got shot to get theirs. So, and I never even served. But we've worked for Purple Heart Foundation. We've worked for numerous children's hospitals and Rotaries and Lions Clubs and all sorts of fundraisers. So philanthropy has always been a big part. You've got to give some back.
Yes,
We do
absolutely.
fundraisers. We're generally not charging fundraisers full pop because we want to give back. So that leads us to Leukemia Lymphoma Society, AKLLS, the Man and Woman of the Year campaign. In different regions across the country, LLS had their representatives nominate people in the community that they think are fun or standout people as candidates for Man of the Year and Woman of the Year. And it is their job to take those candidates then to take a 10-week campaign of fundraising. And whoever raises the most wins the title of Man of the Year or Woman of the Year for their region. Then there's also a national level. So you have that. And in the last 3 years, we've been asked to perform for previous candidates' fundraising campaigns.
Mhm.
And in, was it January or February, they contacted me again and they said, we thought it would be a great idea to nominate you, Ryan, as a Man of the Year candidate. What do you think? And I was like, no. I'm like, I don't
That kind
know.
of energy.
We were coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
And I was like, everybody I know is broke. I can't ask for money for people right now. Nobody I know has any money. I'm on unemployment myself. And I wasn't thinking outside the box was the thing.
Mhm.
I wasn't thinking outside the box. And I was very reluctant. But here's the thing. We talked about my friend Jen. I got the text from LLS in the afternoon. That morning, at the lowest point of my life, ending of COVID for the most part, no work for 9 months, 10 months. I was done. And I got down on my knees that morning and I said, Jen, I said, give me something. I said, just help me get this machine rolling. Just give me a purpose, make me useful, put me to work, let me help somebody, anything. And I got the text that afternoon from LLS. Now, Jen passed from leukemia. And we had, in the previous years done, fundraisers for leukemia, lymphoma. When I pray for something, I'm expecting it to be a phone call saying, hey, Ryan, by the way, we're going to give you a big bucket full of money.
I
And
was going to just say that, a double bag.
Well, the universe doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
If you want something, you either got to work for it or you got to give something back. And it wasn't until later that week that I was like, shit, I prayed for this. I prayed for this opportunity. And then I found out that if I raised $50,000, I could attach that to a research grant in Jen's name. And my first goal was like $5,000. I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to give $5,000 and not bother people, And then I found out if I raised $50,000, I could link that to a research grant in Jen's name.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And, the Lord provides. I live in the Central Valley of California now, Visalia, California. This is a very giving community. It is a community that reaches out, and we have a big following up here. But I wasn't sure how much I was friends with the people up here or how much they were clients. And what happened is I started asking for help, and I found out that they weren't friends or necessarily clients, but they were family. And because I don't have any blood family within 6 hours of me.
Mm-hmm.
And my family here in the Valley, One of our biggest venues that we played on Friday night, Fresno, or Engelman Cellars in Fresno, they immediately volunteered to help, donating bottles of wine for the cause. And we played there Friday night. It wasn't a fundraiser on Friday night, but we played there Friday night, and there's over 500 tickets sold. Over 500 people came out to the show. And other people, the Riverdale Lions Club, they stepped up and held. Riverdale's a small farming community up here, and their Lions Club stepped up and put on a big event for fundraising. And then a previous candidate we'd worked for, the first LLS candidate we worked for, Bree, she said, "Don't worry about it, Ryan. I'm going to host an event for you guys also." So, and that, between just asking over the internet and sending out letters, we raised over $58,000 in 10 weeks.
Thank you, seriously, because I know I speak for a lot of the people that I represent. My family I lost family due to cancer. I have very dear friends that some have passed on, and because of these things that we're learning, they're living. So it's like that is
the money you contribute today.
Yeah.
Money you donate today. Contribute to the research and cures that save your life or the life of a loved one. A
very dear friend is alive today because of that kind of money.
Yeah. And that was it. That was one of my campaign slogans, is the money you donate today can contribute to the research and cures that save your life or the life of a loved one tomorrow.
Yes.
I couldn't do anything for Jen in 2005. She saved my life, and in doing this in honor of her spirit is saving lives today. And we made that money. We made over $58,000. Raised.
That's wonderful.
$58,000. Now, I didn't win Man of the Year. Another remarkable gentleman, cancer survivor, Chase. He did win it, and I was so happy to see him win.
Yeah.
But everybody won, and my team, we won because I just had a goal of $50,000.
Yes.
And that was it. And it was something I was so reluctant to do because
you knew you had to do it.
Yeah, even though I'm an entertainer, I don't crave attention like one would think. I've done over 5,000 dueling piano shows since 1997.
Yeah.
I don't need somebody to pat me on the back. I don't need somebody to say, "You're so good." I don't need that. I've seen my videos. I know if I'm good or not, I get by, that's it. And so I was a little uncomfortable with the type of attention to be brought to something like that, but I did embrace it and realize that it was not about me. It's about cancer. It's about beating cancer. And I wasn't asking for money for me. I was raising money for cancer. And for not cancer. How about that?
Yes.
And my business partner, Donnie, carried a huge load with it. He carried a really big load. It's not a one-man show.
Yeah.
The whole campaign wasn't a one-man show. I was the face. All right. There's all these other people underneath the scenes helping out and making it possible.
Yeah. Well,
and without them, it might have been $5,000, but it wasn't. Now the fact that I was able to use the Killer Dueling Pianos platform.
Yeah. That's what I call the good work. That's in my world. That's the good work. You're using your music and your talents to go beyond yourself, your private agendas and your private, trying to be doing the better.
Yeah, it's, here's the thing, there's a book that I read from about life, and it says in that book that we had a new employer, God. God was our new employer. And that's kind of how I see the world, is God is my employer. I'm here to do God's work. I can get paid for playing. That's okay. Yes. I'm allowed to make a living.
Yeah.
But I try to treat each show, each wedding, each fundraiser as God put this ability in me. There are so many better piano players than I am. So many better singers.
I want to talk to you later about your piano ideas. well, we'll say that, save that for another time. But
Okay.
your approach has to be badass.
My piano's over there. Everybody thinks I would have like, this is the first piano I ever owned. It was $225 at a piano warehouse in Fresno, California. It's a 1946, what is that, Baldwin? It's old, and that's what I wanted. You know, people think, oh, you probably have a beautiful classical piano. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, I have an old piano.
Yeah. Your approach to it has got to be amazing.
Yeah, there's a thing though about once I realized that performing isn't about me. I mean, at least for me, it's not about me. Mm-hmm. I embrace it well, and I play the role really well. But there's nothing special about a musician, really. Mm-hmm. You know, there are lots of talented people out there we will never hear about, sadly. Mm-hmm. You know, the best guitar player in the world sits in his basement and plays guitar because he likes to play guitar, and he doesn't give a crap if anybody ever hears him. Yeah. And he can do it all, and he doesn't care, you know? Mm-hmm. So there's lots of talented people out there. Yeah. And there's lots of people who can sing. There's lots of people who can write a song. And there's lots of people who can play an instrument. My thing anymore is I'm just trying to do God's work through music, and that is create a good feeling. Yes. Or create a good memory, or create healing, even if it talks about pain in the song. Yeah. Create camaraderie. Yeah. Create a relationship of music to everybody else. Bringing people together. Huh? And you're bringing people together for common good. Yeah, whatever it is. I mean, my show is not a real serious show. It's, I've seen. You know, I see where you get out and you sing, and you also we should make note that you also break out your guitar. Yes. In the dueling piano. Yeah. You're not just. Yeah. I do it on a few songs through the show because we want to rock the crowd, and then pretty much every public show, I get a flag out and I call all the veterans up and I have them unfold the flag, and I do the national anthem on the guitar. And I give a little patriotic speech afterwards about, you know, what thank you for your service means to me, and what, you know, why I'm grateful for their service, because I get to do this for a living because somebody else writes a check every day, making sure I have the freedom in this country to pursue my dreams. You know? Yeah. And, so yeah, we rock out, we have a good time, but I believe that you can touch into your artist side. What I'm doing, I don't consider myself an artist when I'm doing dueling piano shows. I don't write any of these songs. I didn't make them. You're a performer. Yeah, an entertainer. Yeah. Of course. And I enjoy being an entertainer. I like seeing people smile. I like making them happy. Well, thank you, Ryan. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, this has been wonderful. Your whole story has been, I hope it inspires people. Well, you know, good work. Nobody ever wants to talk. I'm not hard to find. Yeah. So I'm really blessed. Like when Mike called me, like I saw he was doing this, but when Mike called me, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I got anything to say, but sure. Yeah, your story is absolutely essential. Well, you know, there's nothing too original about it. Some people aren't comfortable talking publicly about anything. I'm an open book. Yeah. That's got to be a part of your recovery too. It is. And it's just, you know, as entertainers and in rock bands and stuff, we have a lot of ego issues, you know, and I suffered from a lot of them, and we have major humility issues. And kind of when you hit a spiritual bottom and you start to realize that the world isn't about you, you know, you start to come around a little bit, and you start to look to what you can contribute to the world rather than take away. And before we go, so my campaign team name for the LLS campaign was called Ryan's Rock Stars. And as we have the Killer Dueling Pianos logo, Donnie and one of the other piano players worked on a new logo. There we go. Right there.
Yeah.
Ryan's Rock Stars. They redeveloped it to say Ryan's Rock Stars, and that was the team name
Yeah.
for the campaign. And so when Donnie brought the buttons to me, because he got the buttons printed and brought them to me, I was like, wow, now it's official. And I was like, well, you know what? Now you
This
did,
can be-
Donnie, don't you? And he goes, huh?
This can be replicated next year. You have a
Well, so I was like, so what? We're going to create Ryan's Rock Stars, and this campaign's going to be over in a few weeks. And I was like, what? We just stop there?
no.
And I was like, I will have such a impending sense of emptiness inside of like, okay, we did that. We can be a bunch of lazy assholes right now again. And I was like, you know what? Congratulations, Donnie. You just got your seat on the board of Ryan's Rock Stars.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot to learn, but we're going to turn Ryan's Rock Stars into an actual charity now. So let me get that up.
That's
We're
wonderful.
going to turn Ryan's Rock Stars.
Keep it there. Hold on. Okay. All right.
Get it?
Uh-huh.
We're going to turn Ryan's Rock Stars into an actual charity. I'm not sure exactly how to do that or how that works.
Yeah.
But I couldn't just stop
Yeah.
after this, you know, that like we created this thing, you know, so it doesn't have anything to do with LLS after this anymore. But you know, my passions are going to be in the mission statement is going to be getting musical instruments into the hands of children.
Yes.
It's going to be focusing on raising money for people with cancer, charities fighting cancer, leukemias, and really, I want to, you know, if somebody else has got a disease and they need help paying a bill, you know, hey, let's help them too.
Yeah.
And then I want to focus on veterans needs, veterans and veterans family needs. And really just through music, through love. And, you know, it's this, you want to be a rock star, you know what? Give a little, give something of yourself,
Yep.
you know, give something back. And that's what a rock star is to me.
Yes, I agree.
A rock star is somebody,
As I said, the good work. Go beyond yourself.
Yeah. A rock star is somebody who's not doing things just for them. And, you know, so that's, I have a little bit more to learn about how to turn it into a full on nonprofit, and probably going to have to go under somebody else's wing for a little bit. But that's the next thing that we're doing is, you know, taking Ryan's Rock Stars to the next level. It's going to take some time, but you'll hear about it.
I will be absolutely supportive of you in any way I can.
Yeah, let's just talk.
Yeah. So it's you send me your any of your links, and I'll put it in the description of the video. All righty, Ryan?
Yeah, I'd love it if people visit our webpage as well, the Killer Dueling Pianos webpage. I'll put all the links in there.
Yeah.
But,
yep, and I will copy them down. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much. This is it. Yep, and that was wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, Michael Giese, Rod, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me and have me on here. I'm completely honored. I'm completely humbled. To any of my friends who may have been watching this, I miss you all. I love you all. You know, we're all human, and you know, going down the road, you know, we learn, we live, we grow. But I love you all.
Okay. All righty.
All right.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Bye.